All right. In democracy, beautiful here. Here we are with one of the most important constitutional separation of powers issues, and people will not let me speak.
This is my First Amendment right. This is
What I'm going to do now is allow.
There's cameras here. The marshals just saw you. The marshals just saw you. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. You just assaulted me. That man just assaulted me. He stuck a flagpole in between my legs.
Yeah.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. There you go. You're in
All
trouble
right.
now. They're calling protective services. I was just assaulted.
Look, if you got a sign,
No, I
hold it
didn't.
over there.
Liar.
I can hold it anywhere I want. This
Yeah.
is public property.
It's assault. I want to press charges.
Let the man talk.
Charges.
Are you interested in hearing him?
Man, go ahead, Peter. Go ahead and talk.
You're on
I
federal
don't
property.
agree with
not
some of your
city.
shit, but go ahead and talk, man.
I
Go
want to
ahead and
press
talk.
charges. No, I
All
did
right.
it. No, I did it.
Go ahead and talk, man. Go ahead.
Sad day for America. Not because they were guilty verdicts, because I can't come out and have an honest, decent conversation with the people of America. People of America, I want you to understand that this is the problem we have right here. This kind of divide in our country between the woke Marxist left and everybody else here. And this is nuts. So what I want to try to do here is have an interesting discussion about what just happened. That's what you all want to know. You want to know what just happened. So I'm going to give Mr. Raleigh first crack at this. And there's some issues they did. Each of my attorneys here, Mr. Irving, Mr. Brand, where did these guys go? They're back there. Hey, let's just do it. No, look, I appreciate if you guys can work through there's no problem with the print media. You get it, right? I apologize to the pool camera, but maybe you can kind of, it's what editors are for. So, Mr. Raleigh, have at it, my friend.
Thank you. Listen, on behalf of Dr. Navarro, we want to express our appreciation to the court, to Judge Mehta, and to the jury that considered this case. This is an important case. This is a landmark case. This case, while we have a decision and we respect the jury's verdict today, this case won't be decided here finally. It will be decided by the D.C. Court of Appeals. This is the first time that a senior presidential aide who has served his president for 4 years has ever been held in contempt of Congress. There are legal issues here that need to be decided by the Court of Appeals. Judge Mehta decided, based upon an evidentiary hearing last week, that there was inadequate evidence to show that President Trump had formally instructed Dr. Navarro to invoke executive privilege. Respectfully, we disagree with that decision. We think that the evidence established that in fact President Trump instructed Dr. Navarro to invoke executive privilege. But in any event, we think that based upon the separation of powers between Congress and the executive, that executive privilege is part and parcel of the office of the President of the United States, and that no express invocation of privilege was even necessary. Otherwise, President Reagan, for example, would have no executive privilege, and any confidential conversations he had with his senior aides at the time would be waived, and you all could ask his aides what President Reagan spoke to about sensitive matters. So we think it's part and parcel of the office. We're confident that the Court of Appeals will hold to that effect, and this case is not over by a long shot.
Oh, I don't have anything much more to add to what Mr. Raleigh just said. Yeah, today was an important step in the direction of a successful appeal, and that's about all I have to say. You seem to have missed the joke there.
All right, let me see if I can break this down for you, and if you guys, you're good to go if you want. This is going to be a while. All right, so let's start with the fact that this is a landmark case. This is a landmark case that's bound for the Supreme Court. Why do I say that? This is the first time in the history of our republic that a senior White House advisor, an alter ego of the president, has ever been charged with the alleged crime. That's the first time that this has ever happened. Now, at the same time, what's so remarkable about this case is that even as the Department of Justice was bringing this case, they had a policy for more than 50 years that says people like me, senior White House advisors, alter egos of the president, cannot be compelled to testify before Congress. Absolute. Yet they brought the case. This case is a landmark case because it's about the constitutional separation of powers. That goes back to the days of George Washington when the legislative branch first began to try and meddle with the executive branch. And if you go back and look at the Supreme Court rulings, few and far between all they are, and more importantly, the Department of Justice position, then you will understand that there are very good reasons why executive privilege is sacrosanct. It's the mechanism by which effective presidential decision-making is made. So this case is not about me. I happen to be the only one in the barrel on this. And what's interesting about this case is that Judge Amit Mehta, during the course of this case, actually made history. How did he do that? He made history by ruling that people like me, senior White House advisors, cannot be compelled to testify. He said that. No judge has ever said that before. Now, the reason why he felt that it did not apply to me is because he did not believe, despite all of the evidence we put on, including my own personal testimony, that the privilege had been properly invoked. And that's another open question for the appeals court, because there are many legal scholars who believe that the privilege is presumptive. Presumptive. There are many other issues that are related to this case that are open questions. But at the end of the day, the day that Judge Mehta ruled that I could not use executive privilege as a defense in this case, the die was cast. This was pro forma. Pro forma. We knew going in what the verdict was going to be. That's why this is going to the appeals court. And we feel, look, I said from the beginning, this is going to the Supreme Court. I said from the beginning, I am willing to go to prison to settle this issue. I'm willing to do that. But I also know that the likelihood of me going to prison is relatively small because we are right on this issue. And you know how I know that? The Department of Justice told us so in memos that span more than 50 years. So you put yourself in my shoes. I go into the White House in 2017. For 3 years, I helped the president create hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs during the pandemic. Every one of you here used masks, gloves, thermometers. Many of you got vaccinated. Many of you used things like remdesivir or monoclonal antibodies. I helped do that. I did. I was one of the guys in the White House. I was one of the guys in the White House early on, February 2020, writing memos say, this is serious. We got to get off the dime. And what do I get for that? Prison. I get a House of Representatives controlled by Nancy Pelosi trying to put me in prison. Why? Because I'm a Trump guy. And I get a Biden White House and a Biden Department of Justice with the Merrick Garland running it, running a part. Is anybody listening? Anybody want to tell me that I would be here if Republicans had held the House? or President Trump was in the office? No. No. So, little bit of righteous indignation, I think. But I say that that righteousness is well placed here. Now, there's some other issues here. I have to lay this out for you. I was not tried for contempt of Congress today. That's not what the trial was about. If any of you sat in the trial, you saw the opening argument. You saw the opening argument of John Crabb, the attorney for the prosecution. He didn't argue. He didn't argue the case on contempt. He said that I was responsible for the J6 insurrection, which is totally without fact. Without fact. Without fact. And he did it in his clothes. The judge called him on it, but it still stood. I am not here convicted because of contempt of Congress. I'm here because of association with J6. That's just wrong.
That will come along
That's
later.
just wrong.
You will be
And
indicted.
and the issue here, stepping back again, it's not about J6. It's about the constitutional separation of powers between the legislative and the executive branch. The Department of Justice itself says you can't do what the legislative branch has done to me, yet they were the ones prosecuting. That's just wrong. I'll take a few questions here if you want.
Mr. Navarro, have you been in touch with former President Trump, and has he offered to help out with your legal fees?
President Trump has been a rock in terms of assistance. We talk when we need to talk. He will win the president's race in 2024 in November. You know why? Because the people are tired of Joe Biden weaponizing courts like this and the Department of Justice. They are tired of an economy that's going into the friggin' tank. That's the other thing I did in the White House. I was an economist in the White House. What they're doing now in the Biden economy is ridiculous. And all of you are going to suffer from that. All of you. So I love President Trump. He's been very supportive of me. And yes, anything else?
Do you not regret going before the January 6th committee and at least pleading the fifth?
I do not. I filed this bill, and interestingly enough, 3 days before I got arrested. And that's a whole nother story. It's like they could have called my attorney. They chose not to do so. I don't know if you know this. I live literally across the street from the FBI. I called the FBI agent who would have guns, 5 armed FBI agents who would put me in leg irons. I called him 2 days before, twice, for more than 20 minutes. They say, hey, you need me? I'm here. No problem.
You were getting on a
And they chose to do the show arrest. Okay, how many times have you seen that BS? They did it at Mar-a-Lago. What is that? Nighttime raid with guns. They had automatic weapons there. So no, I am here because it was my duty to the Constitution of this country, my commander-in-chief, to do exactly what I did. And when I did it, it was Department of Justice policy. It was Department of Justice policy that I was in the right. Everybody here should wonder what the hell happened. Just read the memos from the Department of Justice and then watch what they did. What else you need? Anybody?
Why
Yes, sir.
didn't former President Trump testify to back up your executive privilege claim?
You may have noticed that he's fighting 4 different indictments in 3 different jurisdictions, thousands of miles away. Okay? We chose not to go there, okay? But look, I mean, that gets back to the evidentiary hearing on his invocation of executive privilege. That's not proper. You hold it there. If you want to put it, put it in front of my attorney's face. That's drawing the line. That guy could crush you with his, but don't put it in front of the camera, okay? That's not right.
You're in front of the camera.
I am,
Why
yeah.
don't we just get out of here?
No,
Come on,
hang on.
It's about time. We're off
Hang-
anyway.
Do you
Okay,
Come on, man. Come on. Let him. Come on. If it was you, you would want the same respect, brother.
I've let
All
him
right? The
speak.
man's trying to
I've let
defend
him
his
speak.
ass.
See, I
Okay?
love this guy. He doesn't agree
All right?
with
I
my
sure don't
political
agree with
leanings,
you,
but
I'm
he
gonna
wants
give
me
you
to
your
be
right.
able to
You can have
speak.
your right.
And this is the
Okay?
same guy. And so, all right. I think. Well, what was your question?
why
Oh, I answered that. Last question. Anybody?
was Meta not allowing you to cite executive
Judge
privilege? Do
Meta.
you? Yeah, Judge Meta. Excuse me.
Yes.
Do you think that sealed the deal in terms of the
Yes,
verdict?
of course. Yes, but I want to point out, write this down, folks. This is a landmark case already because even as the judge was preventing executive privilege as a defense in this case, he was ruling that executive privilege was a defense, a perfect defense against a contempt of Congress charge. His quibble, big quibble, I guess, was whether the privilege had been formally invoked. And for the record, 5 phone calls, 1 meeting at Mar-a-Lago, numerous memos, between emails, correspondence, phone calls with his top aides. For whatever reason, that wasn't sufficient. But I'll tell you this, it doesn't matter at the Court of Appeals level because the privilege was presumptive to begin with. So, look, I buried the lead in a way. What this judgment means is another $1 million in legal fees. DefendPeter.com. DefendPeter.com. I need your help.
Peter's grifting off my image.
And
BREEMGC.
see.
I'm also going to sue you for using my image.
Yes, thank you. DefendPeter.com. This one of the last thing I'll leave you with is one of the strategies of clowns like this behind me is to get you involved in what's called lawfare. Okay, even if they don't put me and Donald Trump in prison, they want to bankrupt us. They want to distract us from the mission. The mission, folks, is to get Donald Trump elected in 2024. I'm not going to be distracted by all of this. I'm here for you, the American people. I was when I was in the White House. My mission is to serve this country. I will continue doing so. DefendPeter.com. I need your help to help you defend this country. Thank you.
Trump lost.
Patriot.
Guilty. Patriot. Traitor.
Tell him this isn't January 5th.
Wait until the press finds out that your bodyguard conspired with a man who just assaulted me.